I always try to represent fair critique and give each game credit where it's due, even in light of the most god-awful trash I've ever seen. So naturally, it pisses me off when I see games of mediocrity shot to the moon with praise, while other games that may not be the best thing ever but are still worth checking out at the very least, get left in the dust and forgotten. I'm talking about underappreciated games, not necessarily underrated by any means, but the games most people might not praise as much as they should. Now, of course, I haven't played everything, nor could I, so if I miss anything, chances are I haven't played it myself. This list simply consists of a few titles I think deserve more credit, whether I personally don't hear people having many good words to say about them, if anything at all, along with a few really fun games you might not even think about trying. So let's get started. Post-Insomniac Spyro is wobbly to say the least. Enter the Dragonfly, some mediocre games, and the Legend of Spyro trilogy, which is just 3 games of 3-hit combos. But switching over to the Game Boy Advance with Spyro's third adventure, Attack of the Rhinox, is one of my favourite handheld titles. Compared to the other games, this one is much more open and free roaming. The variety in locations is grand, visually all these games look very nice, and the music is maybe the best Spyro music next to the original trilogy. There are so many collectibles to find, quests to complete, and a bunch of cool original locations like Moneybags' Vault or the Banana Savannah, which actually offers a strong challenge with its puzzle solving. This is the closest thing you'll find to the original games elsewhere, which is a shame that it's tucked away on a handheld system behind 2 much more well-known titles. Check it out if you haven't already. A great game if you're on the go. I know I talk about this game all the time, but listen, okay? In recent years, this game has had its merits praised much more frequently in so many hidden gem lists and such, finally getting the appreciation it deserves. That's why it's much lower on my list. But by God, I won't be satisfied until this game is respected alongside games like Portal, because it is that good. Every single level is different and brings a new challenge to the table. The game is gorgeous and cartoony, faithful to the source material, and has such a kick-ass soundtrack, it's ridiculous. Only releasing this on PC and the PlayStation 1 in 2001 of all years was just a crime, as it's easily one of the best and most underrated puzzle games of all time.
3, 2, 1, go!
You may or may not be familiar with the Destruction Derby series. The first game was a launch title for the PS1 back in the day, and while it was nothing too special, the sequels offered up something different to the simulation racing games of the time, along with some steep challenge. These games were ahead of their time on destruction physics and opting for a much more arcade approach to the carnage racing games should promote. It's so enjoyable slamming cars, doing trick shots, and I mean, look at this! All 20 racers are trapped in this bottleneck. It's amazing! No wonder a whole bunch of knockoffs and copycats spawned after this. All still very fun in their own right, but nothing compares to this series. The first title lacked, but is still enjoyable enough. The second game improved on the formula, and Destruction Derby Raw grounded the arcade style with more gimmicked modes. What the games lack in visuals, they make up for in fun track design and a heavy soundtrack that gets you in the mood for some turn your brain off action. I'm a big fan of simplicity done well, and these games personify that. I was debating whether or not it would be appropriate to include this next game on the list. LA Noir, when it first released, was a thing. People played it, but I don't think they were entirely ready for the slower gameplay found here. We've been so spoiled with Grand Theft Auto over the years, but this was supposed to be something different. More of an open world, large scale puzzle game than an action experience, and I think that hurt it because, in my experience at least, nobody gave two shits until it was re-released on current gen in late 2017. All of a sudden, LA Noir was this fresh, new idea, and people were all over it like Cole Phelps to a hot corpse. I don't understand why that is. The game was always a really different experience, and a solid one at that. Maybe since its debut, people have been groomed to expect more slower gameplay these days, which I say is the big reason people enjoyed it more this time around. So, I'm including LA Noir in this video, not because it's still underappreciated, but instead for the simple fact that it was never fully appreciated to begin with. I'm a big fan of tycoon and simulation games. I spent so much time as a kid playing Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, it blows my mind. But I could never take it on the go. I used to take my PS1 with me on holidays when I was younger, so I was ecstatic when I discovered Theme Park World. The original title was nothing to write home about, and the PC version of Theme Park World against this juggernaut was no comparison in my opinion, but man, that experience on a console, it was magical. The detail you could go into crafting your park, the expansive custom coaster mechanics, and the fact that you could even ride them in first person. It actually won me away from Roller Coaster Tycoon because of that feature. To have such a service like this on my console was something unheard of for myself at the time, and really is quite astonishing when you see just how much stuff is on screen at once. When you fill your park to the brim, the game runs like a legless dog, but regardless is still visually stunning and a pleasure to play all these years later. The Sims is one of the biggest video game series of all time, but beyond its main line of titles, I feel like some of the series spin-offs don't quite get the attention they deserve. The Sims on console has Busting Out, The Sims 3 had Medieval, and The Sims 2 got the Stories trilogy. I've only played the first title, but in short, these games actually had story modes. Sims is known for just creating your family and doing your own thing. There were always pre-made families in every town if you wanted to continue with their intertwined history, but Life Stories came along and gave you an actual story mode, with objectives, character arcs, and a great foundation for you to continue on your own. The story of Riley returning home for a fresh start, and Vince, a millionaire playboy on a quest for his significant other. It's almost a precursor to the narrative-driven games we have today, controlling and choosing the paths of our characters. But then remember the fact that this is a Sims game, and a lot more crazy shit is bound to happen. Makes it all the more entertaining. In a period of time where remakes are praised and hyped like nothing else, how on earth did Ratchet & Clank's remake not get the same love it deserves? I know people are mad that the movie sucked and that impacted the game, so it technically wasn't a true remake, but it was still Ratchet & Clank remade from the original game, done better than the original game. Don't waste your time trying to change my mind. I'm upset some of my preferred levels didn't make it in, and yes, it was technically a movie licensed game instead of a dedicated Ratchet title, but I still hope that one day we get to see Going Commando and Up Your Arsenal have the same treatment, because this was good! We're not getting any more movies, but at least complete the trilogy of games, even if they have to follow the storylines of the movie. I don't care. All I want from all these remakes is to see even a smidgen of something new. Something that wasn't there before, and Ratchet & Clank on PS4 hit the bolt right on the head. Get over your rose-tinted perception of what the point of remaking a game is all about, and just re-enjoy experiencing these great classic adventures. Ratchet & Clank on PS4 took me back to my childhood memories of playing these games, which for a series that I'm absolutely burnt out on, is a pretty strong compliment from me. The Tony Hawk series was at one point revolutionary and highly influential until it got tossed around into a steep decline, finally killing it off. Some people say the last good game was American Wasteland, for others it would be the Underground games, and some even feel Pro Skater 3 was the last true title. I'll never forget the disappointment I felt getting Tony Hawk's Project 8 when I was younger. Wow, I thought it was awful, and still do, until I played the next-gen version. The true version, if you will, on Xbox 360. It's a totally different game. Legitimate open world, fun arcade style action, still with plenty of classic gameplay to enjoy. Sure, it's certainly not the best game of the series, but man, it was the most fun I'd had playing a game in quite some time back when I reviewed this. Another game misunderstood and forgotten about, probably because it was still early days for the 7th gen systems, so things hadn't been perfected yet, and a lot of people like myself were still rocking our dying hardware. I highly recommend giving this a second go if you threw it to the side, because it may be the last bit of light before you enter this dark, dark tunnel that is the demise of Tony Hawk games. Through all the missteps my childhood favourites took over the years, I'm so glad Spyro stayed alive and well through Skylanders. Say what you want about it, because unless you've actually tried it, your words mean nothing. If you have tried it and not enjoyed it, then that's fine, but for me personally, I think the Skylanders series, Giants in particular, was greatly overlooked by an entire generation. To those of us who remember Spyro's roots, forget your skewed perception. You only hate it because Spyro is present, ignoring the fact that the games are actually pretty fun. I say I preferred Giants because it was an improvement over the first game and hadn't totally gone overboard with the optional content yet. Plus these Giants figures are cool. I wish there were more than 8. Visually and audibly, the games are soothing and the beat-em-up gameplay is repetitive but addicting as all hell. And with every single figure having its own unique attacks and skill trees to level up, this is a really, really underappreciated series and game. Again, playing this took me back to my childhood excitement for video games, something that I can only praise. A lot of the games on this list, whether I played them as a kid or only in recent years, remind me of the simpler times I'm nostalgic for, which makes me upset that they don't get the recognition they deserve. And this is no more apparent than my feelings on the top spot. But before we take a look, here are some honourable mentions. I was never a Nintendo guy. I always owned PlayStation systems growing up along with my friends and family, so trying to get into the N64 and see what all the fuss about has been tough for me. All the staple games have so many years of hype behind them that I couldn't care less, honestly. Sure, they're good, even great games, and despite that, I could never get into them. But then, along comes Rocket, Robot on Wheels. I'd never even heard of this game until I reviewed the Sly Cooper trilogy, both being developed by Sucker Punch. It may not be the best game ever, but for me, this is the most fun I've had on this system. Blasphemy, I know. Mario 64 never hooked me, Donkey Kong 64 shit me to death, and even though I have enjoyed some others, none have compared to this. Sure, I had trouble getting through and even got mad at certain points, but isn't that what a good game does? Piss you off just enough that you get that drive to overcome it? All to the cheery visuals and soundtrack that, upon further reflection over the 12 months since I reviewed this, only make my feelings for it grow stronger and stronger. Maybe amongst the sea of collectathons at the time, all revolutionising their genre and the industry in general, Rocket simply got lost in the shuffle. So, to make up for it, this game needs to be on more Nintendo 64 lists and recognised as a classic, because Rocket can hang with the rest of them. Move over, Rareware, there is a new favourite boy in town. For all of the games featured on this list, I'm sure there is more than one reason for them being misunderstood, forgotten about, and going underappreciated over the years. While majority aren't contenders for the best games of all time, they're all still deserving of their spotlight here today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to let me know some of your favourite underappreciated games with a comment down below, followed with liking, subscribing and sharing the video. I'm Square-Eyed Jack, and I hope you have a great fucking day. Thanks for watching.